All right, Mr. Holdeman, you are live.
All righty. Welcome to everybody that has joined us this evening for our ECA Parent Informational Meeting. I'm well aware that we are competing against a couple of high-profile events this evening. I know that the Board of Education started meeting at 6 o'clock, so that's of high interest to many people involved with Wichita Public Schools. And I'm also well aware that the National Championship football game is tonight, so thank you for taking time out of your schedule and joining us. This meeting will be recorded and we will place it on our website for people that aren't able to attend to join and watch later after the event. Mr. Parks, I'm ready to go ahead and start our presentation.
You're good to go.
All righty. So again, thank you for joining us this evening. The plan is to spend about 20 or 25 minutes presenting information to you about the Early College Academy. This is in large part the same information that we presented to all middle schools in Wichita, so your 8th graders should have already heard the majority of this information. It's also a chance for us to introduce ourselves, and so you can get to know those of us who are in charge of the Early College Academy at Northwest High School. And that's actually where we're going to begin. So since you can't see us on the screen, we've put some pictures in here, starting with me. That's me. And again, it's my honor to call myself the principal of Northwest High School. My name is Eric Hofer Holdeman, and feel free to email me anytime with questions about the Early College Academy. In just a moment, you're also going to hear from Assistant Principal Steve Parks. One of his many responsibilities is being the administrator in charge of the Early College Academy. So he would be your main administrative contact if you have questions or concerns. Our head counselor is also our counselor in charge of the Early College Academy, Ms. Kyla Tibbetts. And so Ms. Kyla does scheduling with Early College Academy students and other similar type tasks. And then our fourth person that's joining us is Takita Pascal. Takita is our college and career coordinator here at Northwest. One of her many roles is helping out with the Early College Academy, as well as she's phenomenal at working with especially seniors and getting them connected to college and career, helping them with FAFSA, helping them with college applications, all sorts of good stuff. So she is an invaluable part of our crew. So those are the four of us. We'll try to introduce ourselves when you start hearing us, since you can't see us. And that way you know who's talking to you. So before I turn it over, I wanted to share this quote with you that we hold near and dear from Nelson Mandela. And simply put, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Obviously, we're in public education, but all of us are firm believers that education is indeed that key to having a successful life. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Takita Pascal. Ms. Pascal.
All right, good evening, everyone. Once again, I'm Ms. Pascal, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Early College Academy, just a general overview. So first of all, what is the Early College Academy? Well, we call it ECA, and it is a program designed to grant access and opportunity for more students to get a college degree. We know that the students accepted into this program are capable of attaining a college degree, but our goal is also just to simply help them to get there. This program is in partnership with Friends University, and we work very closely with them to ensure the success of all of our ECA students. Our program is selective, We only accept 50 incoming freshmen for the 2021-2022 school year. So if you and your student are interested, please make sure that you turn in a completed application by January 29th of this year. And that is a little over 2 weeks from today. So again, make sure that you have a complete application turned in by January 29th if you'd like to be considered. So just a few program highlights we'd like to talk about. Again, students must apply. This is an application process that consists of 2 entry essays, recommendations from teachers, counselors, administrators, and other adults. There's also commitment checklists that need to be completed by parents or guardians as well as the students. As this program is quite rigorous, we inform you ahead of time what to expect, and so that way you have the opportunity to discuss this program with your family to decide if it's right for you, not just the student, but as a family, because we want to ensure that everyone is on board to support the student fully. Just a note that, again, as the deadline is January 29th, notification letters for students selected will not be mailed out until the spring, until at least after February 12th. So make sure that if you turned in a completed application that you start looking for notifications after February 12th. When students in this program graduate from Northwest High School, they will have earned enough college credits for the equivalent of an associate degree. Now, we do not actually award an associate's degree, but again, it's just the equivalent of an associate's degree. But that is potentially up to 57 college credit hours, and that is really amazing. And that's the really unique part about our program as compared to some selective programs in the city. And you belong here, so begin your application today. The application is online. We're going to talk a little bit more about that process here shortly. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Parks.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Pascal. My name is Steve Parks. I'm an assistant principal out here at Wichita Northwest High School, and as Mr. Holdeman said, I am tasked with kind of overseeing the ECA program, and probably would be a good starting point for you if you've had questions or need to have things answered. Many parents and students have reached out already, so it's been nice to communicate with some of you and get to answer your questions and talk a little bit about the program and promote the program. What you're looking at right now is a sample course of study. This is on our website, and it's under our programs tab, and it's a link in the Early College Academy page. And basically, this document outlines what an ECA student could expect for their 4 years here in the program. There's 2 columns really associated with this particular document. The left-hand side represents the high school component, and the right-hand side represents kind of the expectation or the component from Friends University. And one thing I do want to highlight a little bit today, because this is a pretty big document, and it's something that if you just read it first time, it might be a little challenging to understand. But I do want to talk about the first year or so for a student that isn't the ECA program. And so what you see on your screen right now is kind of just an enlarged feature of that freshman year, along with there's a bottom row there that talks about the summer. And that's something that's extremely important to talk about, is there is a summer expectation or a summer component associated with ECA where students will take summer courses through Friends University, and the goal is that these summer courses are on site at Friends, and students are transported out there. But that does not happen until the summer between a student's freshman and sophomore year, and there's a real reason to kind of focus in on this freshman year for an ECA student. We understand that transition from middle school to high school is a challenge, and we want students to feel comfortable and safe within our program. And so what you should notice is that when you read that that first row for a freshman, we have courses lined up for them to take, 3 of which are called sequestered. Hopefully you can see it there on the screen, it's big enough. And that represents courses where they are enrolled in classes with their ECA peers, their cohort group, and one of which is a 0-hour class that does start at 7 a.m. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go. But also a math class and an English class. Those classes are sequestered. Now the other courses, for example, the social studies component of a freshman schedule and science, those are not sequestered. Those students would be in classes with other just traditional Northwest students. So it's important to talk a little bit about that sequestered component. But again, I really want to stress that that first year of high school for our freshmen in the ECA program, there is nothing tied in terms of coursework with Friends University. So we like to kind of get them going into high school, let them familiarize themselves with what we do here at Northwest, not just as being in the ECA program, but being Northwest students as well. So that's why that Friends component during that freshman year is left blank. It's left blank for a reason, so that you understand that there isn't an association with Friends that first year. So I do want to hand it over right now to Ms. Tibbetts. She's going to talk a little bit about a sample schedule here at this point. So Ms. Tibbetts, go ahead and go.
Thanks, Mr. Parks. Like was said earlier, my name is Kyla Tibbetts and I'm the ECA counselor. This is my 15th year at Northwest. This is going to be our 3rd group of ECA students. So it seems appropriate that I would talk about the ECA schedule since that's kind of where I live and breathe. But as you can see, this schedule is divided into quarters. So we have quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4. And looking at quarter 1, please notice that the ECA specific courses that Mr. Parks talked about when he said sequestered, meaning only the ECA students are in them. As you can see, there is a 7th hour, and that is the ECA English 1 Honors, as well as it says 10th hour, and it's ECA 101, and that ECA class is actually at 7 a.m., even though it says 10th hour there. And the unique thing about the 0 hour is that the ECA students have the same 0 hour with the same students and teacher throughout high school. So this allows the group to know each other very well, almost like a little ECA family. As you can see, there is still room in the schedule for elective courses. This student happens to have choir and PE in their quarter 1 and quarter 2. ECA students can select either honors or regular for their history class, their world history class, or for their biology class. And they are with other Northwest students for those courses. Those are not sequestered. So then if you look at quarters 3 and 4, this student is continuing in the ECA 101, that 10th hour on here, which is 0 hour at 7 a.m. And they also have their ECA math course. For this particular freshman, it's ECA geometry. However, it could be ECA algebra. And as you can see, this student still has some electives. They are taking band and they are taking a digital media, which is like a yearbook newspaper class. So hopefully this gives you an idea of a typical ECA student schedule. This is a picture of the first ECA group who are now sophomores. Sometimes we have the 0 hours classes get together and they have done some community service projects or study groups. So this is the first group of 50 students and they're in 0 hour together. Most of them are even smiling even though it's 7 a.m. So we like to get that group together. I'm going to go on to the next one. This shows the Early College Academy is in partnership with Friends University. So all of the college credits that they're earning as an ECA student, they are earning from Friends. This is an aerial shot of the Friends Administration building that you probably have recognized driving down Kellogg. We were able to take our first group of ECA students on a field trip to Friends. They were greeted by the Friends drumline and president as they entered campus, It was awesome. It was a great day, and they got acquainted with the campus. They took tours, they got friends' IDs and t-shirts, and they even ate a great lunch in the cafeteria, and we hope to do more activities like this. Apply. We want you. We don't know what a great rock star of a student you are until you apply. But the deadline is January 29th, which is quickly approaching. So please listen carefully to the application process that's coming up. Where is the application? It's online. So you're going to go to the Northwest website. It looks just like this was on the slide. A very important note is that the application is a non-savable document. So the application must be completed all in one setting. You're probably going to hear this several times during this presentation, as the application is lengthy, and knowing that it isn't savable is of critical importance. Once you are on the Northwest webpage, locate the Programs tab. There it is, circled in red. Okay, we're still on the Northwest website, but when you hover over Programs, there's a drop-down with several options. You will then click on the Early College Academy. It's circled there in red as well. And then once you click on that, it will take you to the ECA page. And on the left side of this page, you'll see the application circled there in red. There are also essay prompts right above the application. Remember, you should complete the essays prior to beginning the application. Since the application isn't savable, Mr. Parks will present more on the essay prompts later. Once you click on the application, that will take you directly to the application to start applying. Remember, the deadline for your application is Friday, January 29th. Like we've said several times, it is quickly approaching. Now I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Parks.
All righty, thank you, Ms. Tibbetts. Okay, so getting back to what Ms. Tibbetts had talked about, it is a non-savable document, this application, and so I really want to talk a little bit, or my focus now I want to be on the essay prompts. And so, as you can see on the left-hand side there is a link where you can click on essay prompts, and when you do that, it'll bring up basically a screen that shows what they are, and so you can see it on your screen right now. And there are 2 essays associated with this, and they're numbered on here on this particular slide. You can see number 1 talks about explain why you want to be accepted into the ECA or Early College Academy, why you'd be a good fit, and how this program will help you achieve your long-term goals. That essay prompt is a must. It must be responded to by all applicants. So every applicant that wants to be in the program must answer essay prompt number 1. And there's some directions there, as you can see, that no less than 450 words. And we give these prompts to you or to the applicant prior to doing the application, because the application is a non-savable document, and we want a student to have the ability to write a good response to these prompts, and also have a moment to edit, maybe even get some feedback and to rewrite if necessary, so that when it's time to actually do the application, if they've written it maybe in a Word document or something like that, they could simply then just copy and paste, and it takes care of it real smoothly that way. So as I said, every applicant must do essay number 1 or essay prompt number 1. And then some of you are probably thinking, well, wait a minute, you said there's only 2 essays, but yet I see a total of 6 here. Well, the 2 through 6 is kind of it is a pick one. So what every applicant should do is obviously answer prompt number 1, and then go down and read the remaining ones and choose whichever one fits them the most, or they feel the most comfortable responding to. So if an applicant did essay number 1 and then read through the prompts down below and felt, I don't feel comfortable doing number 2 or 3, I like that quote there by Frederick Douglass. I'd like to go ahead and respond to that particular prompt. Then number 4 would be their second essay choice, okay? Or someone could do simply essay prompt number 1 or 5, right? So the key is 2 essay prompts. We want the applicant to have the ability to work on those prior to beginning the application, and then it's just a simple process of copying and pasting, okay? So that's the essay prompt. Let's then go to the next slide, which is talking about references and recommendations. And this is a really kind of big talking point here. I get most of my follow-up questions or just general questions in regards to the references and recommendations. And so we've kind of, on the screen here, you can see that there are quite a few of them. There's 3 reference surveys, and then there's 1 actual letter of recommendation, kind of like a formal letter of recommendation, but they're all based in the application itself. So what we ask, and I'm going to try to give you some helpful tips or hints here for the references recommendation part on the 3 reference surveys as well as the letter of recommendation. We ask that you have people in mind that can do these for you. And I'm kind of speaking to the applicant here. So if it's your son or daughter, we ask that they have people in their mind of who they would want to do the surveys, the reference surveys, or the letter of recommendation. So in terms of the reference surveys, we do have one that we would like to be done by a counselor or an administrator. We do have another reference survey that we would like to be done by a teacher. And then also the 3rd reference survey would be an adult outside of school. And that could be a wide range of adults, preferably not a family member. But if you have maybe a situation where your son or daughter has done some volunteer work and they had a supervisor, and that supervisor would be a great person to write a reference survey for them, that'd be a phenomenal choice. My suggestion here is that you have, or your son or daughter has, these people in mind, and they communicate to them in advance that this is something that they would like for them to fill out for them. It is critical, and this is probably the most important part that I can talk about. Let's say that your son or daughter has 3 people in mind to do the reference survey, and then another person to do that 1 letter of recommendation. Not only should they communicate to those people that they want them to do this for them, they must have their name and enter their name into the application. There's a part to enter that in. They need their name, and it is critical that they have a correct working email, and that email needs to be perfect. And the reason for that is because when they do finalize their application and hit submit, then that will send those reference surveys via email to those adults that your son or daughter wants to have them complete. And then those adults will get those emails. They can click on the link, they can fill out that reference survey, they submit, and then it goes in for your son or daughter. One of the other things that I would strongly urge you to do in terms of giving advice to your son or daughter about this is, let's say they've completed their application, they typed in the name of the people that they want to do these reference surveys and the letter of recommendation, and they entered everything in perfect. It wouldn't hurt to do a follow-up with those adults. Hey, just checking in, wanted to see if you got the email asking for you to complete a reference survey or a letter of recommendation for me. Did you get that? Were you able to get that complete? Just a nice way to kind of just tie up the loose ends to make sure that your son or daughter is represented by these adults, because it is part of the process or the evaluation tool that the committee does look at. So hopefully that answers questions or gives you some helpful hints and tips in regards to the references and recommendation component of the application. I can't stress enough, the email must be perfect, and it's important to just double check that you've got the right thing when you go to submit that in for those adults that you want to have do a reference survey or letter of recommendation. That's all I'll talk about on that. If there's further questions later on at the end of the presentation, I'm sure we'll be happy to answer those as well. At this point, I will turn it back over to Ms. Pascal. She'll continue the presentation.
Thank you so much, Mr. Parks. So as you see right now, we just included a few pictures of our current ECA students, and on let's see, I guess it maybe be your left side. We are looking at our Miss Burgett's 0-hour students. So Miss Burgett is actually this lady down here in the corner. You can just see one of her eyes. She is one of our 0-hour students, or one of our 0-hour teachers, sorry. And these are her students, and you can see several smiles. See, we try to keep our students happy here. So they are becoming like a definite family. And so we hope that your student decides that they want to be a part of that as well. On the right side, what we're looking at is some representatives from Friends University who came in to register our ECA students to become Friends University students. Now, that is not just in talking about them being Friends students. They are actually Friends University students. So they can choose to attend Friends University sporting events or fine arts events or whatever. They can use the library. They are able to do that because they are Friends University students. They will have an actual college ID, and I think that they thought that's pretty cool. If you can look on the screen, you can see a couple of thumbs up. So they thought that was pretty neat. So that is another cool part of our program here at Northwest. So we will have time for more questions later, but we do have a few questions that are frequently asked. So first of all, what time does the school day start and end? We have said this a few times already. However, we'll just reiterate. School starts for our ECA students at 7 a.m. and ends at 2:10 p.m. So basically they begin an hour earlier than the general Northwest population and end school an hour earlier for that. So what is the cost for me as a student? This is one of the biggest points of pride for our program, and the cost is $0. So if you remember, your student could get potentially 57 college credit hours for $0. Will I have transportation to Northwest? If you are a USD 259 student, busing is provided no matter where you are in the district if you are greater than 2.5 miles away from Northwest High School. So even if you are if your student is in South High's school, South High's attendance area, and you get accepted into the ECA program, you will still be able to attend and you will be bused to Northwest. And the last frequently asked question, extracurricular activities. Do I get to participate? Not only do you get to participate, but you get to participate as a Northwest Grizzly, and that is one of the best things that you can be in the city of Wichita. So the next slide that we have is just a little cost comparison. One of the things that as the college and career coordinator I hear all the time is, of course, college is super expensive, right? And so we did just a little research on some local colleges as far as the cost. If you are not aware, college is billed in credit hours. So for instance, a college English class is typically 3 credit hours. And so what we took here is the cost per credit hour at Wichita State, KU, and K-State. And so for an English class at Wichita State, you take $228.09 times 3. That's the cost for that English class, and that is just tuition. That does not include fees, room and board, all of that other stuff. And so we took the time to calculate approximately what it would be for 50 credit hours at each of these universities. And we also included Friends University, because if your student was to not be an ECA student and go to come to Northwest or go to whatever high school and then they apply to Friends University and get in, they're paying $989 per credit hour. But if you see there, we are saving you a ton of money, because as an early college academy student, you get 50 plus college credit hours, again, for $0. And I don't know about you, but I really love free things, and especially when it comes to college credit hours. So we hope that this is something that works out for all of you who are listening with us today. And we hope to see some really great applicants and complete applications here soon. I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Hofer Holdeman.
All right, thanks, gang. That is the extent of our presentation. We tried to fill you in with information, but we know that there are always questions that you have. So there's a couple different things I want to do now. One is, if you have questions that you have right now, feel free to log on and go to the Q&A section and type in your questions there, and we'll try to answer them right now. If you think of a question after this is over, jot down these emails, and you are more than welcome to send it to any of us. There is a general email for the ECA, and it's just simply eca@usd259.net, and any one of us will get the questions if you send it to that general email, eca@usd259.net. So let's take some time. I'm going to kind of be the moderator for this Q&A time, and we have a couple questions already in our Q&A section, and I'm going to try to answer that. I think Mr. Parks has already typed in some answers, but I'm going to try to answer those real quickly. So somebody wrote in, can we break down the recommendation letters needed? I think that question came in before we actually presented it, but I'm just going to quickly run down. The first one is a middle school teacher, any middle school teacher you have. The second one comes from an administrator or a counselor from your middle school. The third one is an adult outside of the school. And the fourth one is a recommendation letter, and that can be any other adult, just not one of the first three adults. So those are the four recommendations that we ask for. Those automatically get sent based on the email that your son or daughter types in. Another question was asked, are the college credits earned transferable to another university or college if they opt to not attend Friends after high school graduation? Great question. The answer is, it depends. If your son or daughter actually went to Friends University after graduating from high school, then obviously 100% of the credits would count. But if your son or daughter chose to go to a different school, WSU, KU, K-State, wherever, it depends on the university, and it also really depends on the major that they choose as well. So you would probably be best served to contact that college or university and ask them directly what credits would transfer. They'd be able to answer that exact question, but that's an excellent question that we get asked many, many times. As I continue down the Q&A session, a question was asked about the required recommendation letter. Are there any specific guidelines or elements that must be covered in the letter? Because somebody's planning to ask somebody to be a reference. Let me just tell you real quickly, the recommendation letter is actually an automatic survey also. It's just the questions are slightly different. So really, there's two components. One is, what are the strengths that student brings to the ECA program? Kind of why would you recommend the student? And then the second component on the recommendation letter is just simply, are there reservations you might have for that student to be a part of the ECA? Panel, do you want to add anything else on that reference letter? Another Q&A question. How does this affect a student's athletic college eligibility, as in the NCAA clearinghouse approved, or does this dip into their years of eligibility as a college athlete? Panel, do one of you want to take that NCAA clearinghouse?
Well, this is Mrs. Tibbetts, and I work with NCAA, and I've had students in the past, not in the ECA program, but students that have earned a large number of concurrent college credits through Newman and Friends and Wichita State, and I've never had it dip into their years of eligibility whatsoever. So I don't think it would dip into their eligibility.
Thank you, Ms. Tibbetts. Another question, what happens if they don't get the email? I assume this person's referring to the references, if the references don't get the email. Great question. If you take Mr. Park's advice, which I strongly recommend you do, and you follow up with your references, and they say, no, I never got that email, feel free to send one of us an email and we'll resend that reference survey. The easiest one to send it to is just that ECA@usd259.net. Just send us a quick email saying, hey, we meant to send an email to such and such reference. They didn't get it. Can you resend it? And we would be happy to do that. Absolutely. Question was asked, how about the parents' checklist? Mr. Parks, do you want to address the checklist on the application and what those, give us an idea of what some of those checklist items include?
Yeah, you know, I don't have them all memorized, so bear with me as I kind of try to talk about it. Some of the checklist items are more just a parent acknowledging that they understand the expectations of the program, maintaining a specific GPA, understanding and agreeing to the fact that within this program itself, there is a summer course expectation, things of that nature. That's part of the parent checklist as well as a student checklist. There are two components there: a parent checklist where a parent acknowledges that these are kind of the characteristics of the program, and I am acknowledging that my son or daughter will meet those, fulfill those, and that's really what the parent and the student checklist is about, to make sure that you understand the expectations of the program and that you acknowledge that you will, not only as a parent but also as a student in the program, will abide by those.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. Another question was, do the recommendations also have a January 29th deadline? And the answer is no. We actually have a little bit of a grace period there for recommendations to come in. So we actually, recommendations, we kind of cut that off when the applications go to the selection committee, which is about a week later, then we draw the deadline for those. So if you're looking at your calendar, January 29th is the application deadline. But really, as long as recommendations come in by February the 5th, we'll still consider those recommendations. I appreciate that question. Thank you. Another question was about AVIT. Is that at all an element of this program? Do we apply to AVIT after being accepted into the ECA program? So officially, AVIT is a separate program, and really, because the ECA is so demanding, a student really would not be a part of the AVIT program. Now, with that being said, we incorporate an awful lot of AVIT strategies into our ECA program. So that 0 hour where they're meeting with their 0 hour teacher, they're getting a lot of study habits and how to take notes and how to study for tests and that sort of thing. Ms. Tibbetts, do you want to chime in at all on that, please?
Sure. I have had some students that have asked, should I apply for both? Because if they're not going to be an ECA, they wanted to be an AVID. And I encourage them to apply for both, because then it's their choice which one they want to do. And even though we do incorporate a lot of AVID strategies, it's kind of like double dipping, so we don't have students be in both programs. They choose one or the other.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Another question is, if they don't get in this year, can you apply next year? And the answer is unfortunately no. We have only one entry point into the ECA, and that is coming out of 8th grade and entering your freshman year of high school. So unfortunately, the answer is no. Our program is only built to handle 50 students at a time, and we stick with that class for the entire 4 years. Another question, if my child chooses to continue on at Friends, are they automatically accepted at Friends, or do they still have to apply as a senior? Ms. Pascal, could you answer that one, please?
Okay, so the answer to that question is no, they usually don't have to apply again. They usually will just have to contact the admissions office and get their status changed from a non-degree seeking student to a degree seeking student. At this point, we haven't gotten any kids yet to that point where they've applied, and so we would probably still might have some other things that might have to be done, but usually that's how it works.
Yeah, can I piggyback on that, Mr. Holdeman?
Please do.
Yeah, so one of the nice components about this program is we have a time, we just did it right before Christmas, or sorry, the holiday break here, where we had our 50 freshmen, and we had to do it virtually, but they went through the process with admissions representatives from Friends, and they applied to the college, and so that is them officially applying to Friends and becoming a Friends University student at the same time that they're a high school student. So the application component or applying to the university at that point is done. I would assume, as Ms. Pascal talked about, there would need to be some sort of, we haven't gotten there yet, and we'll cross that bridge as we go, but there'll have to be something done in terms of that student then continuing on with Friends University. One of the things I did want to talk about a little bit, which is great, and I don't think I've even shared this with the team here, and that is in some of my most recent talks with representatives from Friends, there could be the potential for some incentive for a kid to continue with Friends in terms of potential scholarship, opportunities for kids that were ECA students that are then going to continue at Friends University. We're early in the program, so there are preliminary talks about it. It's not a guarantee, but there are conversations that are happening about trying to incentivize that. So really just a lot of neat things going on with this program. So
that is great news. I did not know that. The next question up on our Q&A section is, are there any other college university partnerships, or is Friends the only option at this time? Mr. Parks, would you mind answering that one, please?
In terms of the ECA or the Early College Academy, the only partnership associated with it is Friends University at the moment. Now, you know, we do have, and other high schools do have, as Ms. Tibbetts talked about, the dual credit and the concurrent credit options that are not necessarily just associated with Friends. There are other universities that partake in those partnerships. But in terms of ECA, Friends University is the only partner at this time and potentially in the foreseeable future here.
Another question, are there recommendations, expectations for writing styles for the essay, like as in double spaced or ACA? And the answer is no, we do not have any requirement for the essays or the recommendations. Will the grading system be the SRGs or the standard A through F? This must be a question from a public educator, I think. The answer is it actually depends on the teacher. Without getting into the weeds too much, high schools throughout Wichita Public Schools don't officially start SRGs, which stands for Standards Referenced Grading. They actually don't start until August of 2022, which is the following year at the freshman level. But with that being said, we have a handful of teachers that are piloting SRG, Standards Reference Grading, and some of those include English teachers. So it is possible that a student would have a teacher in ECA who is utilizing the SRGs. At this point, none of the math teachers are piloting it yet in the ECA, and nor are social studies teachers. Oh, and I think honors biology. Ms. Tibbetts, is that right? Honors biology is also piloting SRGs?
Correct. Honors biology has SRG as well.
Okay, so long story short, it's a combination. It kind of depends on the teacher. Next question up in the Q&A section. If a student attends this program and later on decides on a major that isn't offered by Friends, what happens with the credits, or will they need to change majors at the to the ones offered at Friends? Miss Pascal, would you mind attacking that one?
Sure. As we did talk a little bit about college credits being able to transfer earlier, at this point, the credits that students receive from Friends University, it depends on the school they choose to go to, whether they would all transfer or not if they decide to attend a university that does not offer the Friends major. So if they did if they did decide to go to Friends and their major is not offered, again, it would also depend on the major that they have at Friends, which credits would apply towards graduation, and which ones would not, but it also just depends on what school they go to. So I would highly suggest, and again, we haven't gotten into the specifics of this because we only have sophomore ECA students at the moment, but as we get closer to our students going on from their high school years, we will probably have a little bit more information as far as what transferring looks like, and if we will actually even have maybe transfer specialists working within our ECA program. That would be great so that we can tailor those answers specifically for our students. So right now, the answer is it depends.
Just to piggyback on that, let me give you a concrete example. So in the ECA program, if a student is pretty sharp in math, they can make it all the way through calculus. And our calculus that we offer is in conjunction with Friends University, so they would earn calculus credit at Friends University. But let's say your son or daughter chose to go to K-State and major in some sort of engineering. It's possible that K-State would not accept that general calculus. They might insist on some sort of engineering calculus, in which case those credits would not necessarily transfer. So that's just a concrete example of that. I have one more question on here that's listed. How are students chosen for the ECA program out of the number of applicants? Let me start off by this, and then I'm going to have Mr. Parks kind of chime in as well. We have a selection committee made up of 10 people that go through every single application. We actually have a scoring system where we look at the essays that were written, where we look at the recommendations, where we look at grades and behavior and attendance from middle school, and we plug it into this scoring system, and it spits out a score at the other end, and then we take a look at the top 50 scores. There's one more component, though, that I want to mention. One of the founding principles of the Early College Academy is to match the demographics from our district. So that's a one additional component that we throw in there to make sure that we have a representation from all demographics that are represented in our district. Mr. Parks, do you want to chime in on that?
Yeah, you've mentioned what the committee looks at. There are one kind of other component that is scored, and that is past assessments over the course of a student's career. And so, for example, state assessments or things like that. The score on an English component of a state assessment or a math component is also looked at. So really just a lot of different things in terms of academics are looked at when the committee decides. The essays are in there. They're scored based on a rubric. You've got the recommendations reference surveys, and then also Mr. Holdeman addressed the attendance, behavior, and grades that are looked at from basically the middle school time period there for each student. So there's a lot of different components that are looked at.
I'd like to add that we are obviously as we are saying what components we're looking at, we're not just looking for that straight A student. We look at a variety of aspects of the student to try to make sure that they are the best fit for ECA. So even if you have a student who is not a straight A student, but you know that they are possibly a good fit for this, I would highly encourage you to apply.
Excellent point. That is the last question on our queue there. So unless there are any other questions, I want to thank you for joining us this evening. Thank you to the panel for helping me present. And hopefully you had a chance to write down those email addresses. If you have additional questions you think of later, the easiest one to remember is just simply ECA at USD 259. I hope you can see that on your screen right there. ECA at USD259.net. That's the easiest one to remember. You can guarantee that you'll get an answer within 24 hours if you send a question or a statement to ECA at USD259.net. With that, Mr. Parks, any final comments as you close us out?
Not necessarily. I was going to put my face live so that people could put a name with a face. So here I am. I've hidden kind of in the shadows and allowed Mr. Holdeman to take the lead here. So here I am. My name is Steve Parks, and I am an assistant principal here at Northwest High School. So that's all I'll say. Ms. Tibbetts or Ms. Pascal, did you want to say anything final and maybe share your face?
Oh gosh, sure, Mr. Parks. Go ahead and put my face up there.
Here we go. There you are. You are live.
Hello, everybody. Hope to see you soon.
Okay, Mr. Parks, you can put me up.
I had to get approval first. All right.
Hi, Kyla Tibbetts. Thank you all for attending. Great questions and good luck. And don't forget the deadline of January the 29th.
So I will put Mr. Holdeman back live so that he can send us off.
All righty. Well, thank you all for attending, and we will see you around. Thank you.
Bye-bye.